Hey Bible lovers, I'm Tim Nichols and I'm here to bring you your Nicholsworth, and today we're going to talk about my read through of the NET Bible. Now this is a very interesting translation in that it is dynamic, it is designed to be kind of easy to understand, but there's also some translational decisions where they'll take some of the critical apparatus or some of the ancient manuscripts and compare them, and they'll make some very interesting decisions because look, when you translate from Hebrew or Greek to English, sometimes it's not going to be this perfect little fit or perfect little match for an English word, and there have been several examples of that in here, especially when you're talking about phrasing and different things where you're talking about a whole sentence. So anyhow, take a look at this. When I read a Bible, what I do is I'll put a prayer list in there and we'll cover those names up, and then I will make markings on things that I find interesting, like obliterated. I thought that was awesome. The Lord obliterated Sodom. But let's go to page 69 because this is a very interesting thing that I saw, is they kept the Hebrew rendering of the word booths here. So whenever you see the Feast of Booths or whenever you see like a city or anything like that, sometimes they'll keep that Hebrew name so they won't translate that for you. So I thought that was kind of cool. But there's some real interesting things in this translation that I think it's important to point out. Let's go to Genesis chapter 4 real quick. And this one I think is something that you'll find super interesting because Eve, when she has a son after Cain kills Abel, she says something according to this translation that is quite interesting. She says, I have created a man just as the Lord did, where most other translations say, with God's help, I've had a son. So that really threw me off, but then I went to the notes. So what I want to show you is the full notes versions of this Bible. You have one in genuine leather, so this is now back in stock. This had been out of stock for a while. And then you have the Leathersoft. Now I've replaced the ribbons in this one just to kind of make it look a little nice. And I want to show you this because this is the Talmud, one of the tractates of the Talmud. And it has kind of that illuminated style. And this kind of has a similar look to me. Now this is your text of the Bible, and then this is your notes. And the notes are broken into different categories. I don't have time to really break down this note system, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another video where I review this text in the description. I'll also put it on the end screen. But this is a really good resource to kind of help you understand whenever a text doesn't make sense. So I'm going to give you some examples of some things that kind of stood out to me in this translation. Number one, Genesis 4:1, we just talked about where I've created a man just as the Lord did. That was a little jarring, but go read the note on that. It's really helpful. In Deuteronomy chapter 6 is the Shema. It's actually rendered very interestingly. Normally, the way we read it is you love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. But this one says with your whole mind, your whole being, and all your strength. So they're really emphasizing what the Shema means. And basically the Shema is like a repeating of the same thing. Love the Lord your God with your whole self, repeated 3 times. So they really emphasize that. Also in 1 Samuel chapter 17 verse 4, how tall is Goliath? Well, the NET goes with the Septuagint, where Goliath is just under 7 feet tall, but most of your Bibles actually have him at over 9 feet tall, following the Masoretic text. Thought that was super interesting. Also in 2 Samuel chapter 20 verse 35, instead of the sons of the prophet, they call them the prophetic guild. We represent the prophetic guild. I just thought that was funny and interesting. So anyhow, in Psalm 8:5, it talks about the fact that they made him a little lower than the heavenly beings, where most translations say a little lower than God, and some translations do say a little lower than the angels. So that was really interesting. Also, they use the word Sheol a lot in the Old Testament versus grave. Thought that was interesting. Psalm 82, when it's talking about the Lord is in his heavenly council, read Psalm 82. It is fascinating. It's basically making it sound like he's presiding over the council of El, which was a Babylonian god. Super, super interesting. And then Isaiah 9:6, where it says wonderful counselor, they say wonderful advisor. And again, in all these, make sure you read the notes. Make sure you go through the notes version that kind of gives you the reasoning why they made some of these decisions. Whether right or wrong, it's still super interesting. Also, I think they kind of got Isaiah 11:2 wrong, where it talks about the 7 spirits of God. It kind of merges them together, and I think it throws things off. So sometimes your more dynamic translations are going to kind of lose some details. Let me just say it that way. Jeremiah 23:23 is very interesting because he says, am I not a God near or afar off? Where in this one he says, do you think I'm just only a local deity? Or am I not a God that is universal? I thought that was super interesting. In Micah 2:11, they use the word windbag. Anytime there's anyone insulting anybody and they use the word windbag, it gets a thumbs up from me. A few things that really stood out in the New Testament is in Matthew 6:32, instead of the word Gentile, they use the word unconverted. And yeah, that really makes sense in today's language, but I thought it was super interesting that they decided to go with unconverted because Gentiles can be Christians as well. So, a little give or take there. This one is awesome. In Matthew chapter 27, verses 16 and 17, they call Barabbas Jesus Barabbas. In their notes, they explain that that's important because what that means is Jesus, Son of the Father in the Greek. Look it up. It's really awesome. Also in John 1:1, they said, and the Word was fully God instead of the word was God, really emphasizing. And the note on that one, check out the note in John 1:1. 1 Corinthians 6:6 in Adelphos, which is often translated brothers, they used the word Christians there. I thought that was interesting when it actually literally means brothers. But they wanted to emphasize these were not just brothers like family, but they were Christians. Interesting use. In 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 9, they talk about active and passive homosexuality. Read the note on that one. Super interesting as well. Revelation 1:3 is also super interesting, where it says, blessed is the one who reads this prophecy aloud. Aloud is a supplied word. Check out the note on that one. It is super interesting. I really highly recommend the NET. I really enjoyed it. I love the layout of this one. It has a nice large 10-point font, double column layout. It does have limited notes here and there, but this one isn't designed to really have a whole lot of notes. It's really designed to be read. So you can read the NET without the notes, but when you have the notes as part of your experience, it is so much better. Again, I know I didn't do a lot of review on this one, but I did a full review on the black Leathersoft. They do have it in brown genuine leather again. I'll put that in the video description and the end screen. There you have it. Keep calm, Jesus on. This is your Nicholsworth.